The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will see the AlphaTauri name for the last time as the team is getting ready to rebrand as Racing Bulls. Red Bull's sister team will undergo a big transformation in which apparently Horner will have more control over its operations, which can be both good and bad for the team. But at the end of the day, it's a much needed change in a team that struggles to get into points and has fielded as many as 4 different drivers this season. Could we see a rise from the ashes for the former Toro Rosso, and where is the team headed now? Before we go into more depth about the implications of this change, let's take a step back in time to understand the team's evolution. The team originally debuted as Toro Rosso in 2006, translating to Red Bull in Italian. It remained Toro Rosso for several years, even being a favourite team for many fans. And in 2020, the Red Bull group decided to rebrand it as AlphaTauri, aiming to promote the clothing brand and its association with Gasly, the team's driver at the time. The attempt at marketing did not yield the desired impact though, which is where the need for a change has come. There are strong rumours suggesting that Red Bull's sister team is going to change its name to something more neutral, as a leaked logo on social media indicates that the new name might be Racing Bulls. The decision was announced by the new CEO Peter Bayer during the F1 2023 season finale in Abu Dhabi, and he mentioned that this change is to make the Faenza-based outfit more connected with Red Bull's main racing team. However, the technical boss Jody Egginton denied that the new car for next year will be an exact copy of the current dominant one. The likely reason for the Racing Bulls name is to attract new sponsors like Visa and Cash App, and the Austrian publication believes this neutral name is ideal, especially for entering the prosperous US market. This change coincides with the departure of longtime team boss Franz Tost, who is being replaced by former Ferrari sporting boss Laurent Mekies. It's been everything that's given him drive for so many years, said continuing team driver Daniel Ricciardo, who also drove for the Faenza-based team over a decade ago when it was called Toro Rosso. I hope he can enjoy putting his feet up a little bit next year, the Australian added. I'm not sure fully what that's going to entail for him, but I really hope he's able to enjoy some rest and relaxation. There were comments online about why Red Bull didn't revert to the original identity of its second team, Toro Rosso, and I think the reason lies in Toro Rosso's Italian roots, as Red Bull had acquired the Minardi team before the 2006 season. To avoid confusion, Red Bull created a distinct branding identity for the team, with visual elements designed by Jos Perkner, and they also included an Italian translation of the main brand as a nod to the team's location in Faenza. Initially, the primary aim of this team was to develop emerging talent from Red Bull's junior academy, and the marketing focus was on establishing the Red Bull name prominently, especially with 4 cars on the field. However, in the late 2010s, the strategy shifted to further differentiate the second team from the main one, so the emphasis turned to promoting alternative Red Bull drinks, specifically the Red Bull Organics line, including Simply Cola, tonic water, bitter lemon, and ginger ale. The livery took inspiration from the Simply Cola can, and subtle references to other organic drinks were incorporated on the inside of the rear wing end plates. Reports during the summer revealed that the new Red Bull ownership, following Dietrich Mateschitz' passing, intended to relocate most of the second team's staff to the Milton Keynes campus. The adoption of the Racing Bulls identity reflects this significant move, signifying a departure from their Italian roots as they transitioned to the UK. Additionally, Red Bull's legal team had mentioned as far back as 2009 that their Formula One teams are informally nicknamed the Racing Bulls, mirroring the way their airplane events are referred to as the Flying Bulls, and this continuity then aligns with their long-standing internal marketing plans. Another significant factor in this rebranding comes from the internal changes in the management of the second team following the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz. The higher-ups at Red Bull were not keen on utilising Formula One as a marketing platform for its AlphaTauri brand. Consequently, they made the decision to remove remove the AlphaTauri brand from the sport at the end of the year. If you remember, Horner personally said that he will be more involved with the team from 2024 onwards, and he will be creating the management team for Red Bull's sister team. So Mekis and the new CEO Peter Bayer are his choices alone. Discussions took place regarding whether the team should be sold, but ultimately the board opted to retain the team while selling the naming rights to the highest bidder, hence the choice of the name Racing Bulls. A recent example of a similar strategy can be observed in Racing Point, now rebranded as Aston Martin, which tailored its identity according to its main sponsor. In 2019, when the team was known as Sport Pesa Racing Point, the logo type featured Sport Pesa Racing, putting the sponsor in the spotlight and integrating it into motorsport conversations, which I think is an effective approach to top-of-the-mind marketing. Now, let's explore the implications of this change. AlphaTauri is undergoing a significant reformulation process with changes in team leadership and internal restructuring, and the move towards Racing Bulls aligns with the team's attempt to redefine its identity and possibly strengthen its ties with Red Bull, as we mentioned above with Christian Horner's role. The concept behind this new rebranding is not merely to label the team as Racing Bulls, but rather to identify it by its primary sponsor. Initially, Hugo Boss and Adidas were rumored to be the leading bidders for this position. This approach ensures that the second team establishes a distinct identity from its sister counterpart, shaping its visual branding in accordance with the main sponsor. Additionally, it's worth noting that Red Bull has employed a similar strategy in the past, such as naming their MLS scooter team New York Red Bulls to navigate naming regulations that prevent companies from naming their teams after their products. Similarly, their Austrian football team is known as RB Leipzig for the same reason. The question was whether AlphaTauri was worth the investment from Red Bull, because for it to be worthwhile, the team needs to present results. Otherwise, the new responsible people, not necessarily the owners, who are not big fans of the F1 program, including the previous responsible, Dietrich Mateschitz, would be willing to sell the team if reasonable results aren't shown. So what's expected from this new phase of AlphaTauri, or better yet, Racing Bulls? To complete the leap, the team must improve next season, and while this implies better performance, they have to score more points and be the best of the lower-end teams in Formula One. Racing Bulls need to compete for the podium in 2024, even though the chance of that from this point is very minimal. Most likely, Racing Bulls will take a leap in the middle of the pack for 2024, or maybe even slightly above it, but they will be staying in the middle of the pack at best. Racing Bulls is a concept very close to Red Bull, yet I believe they simply won't be allowed to be a second Red Bull in terms of performance, because this is not in the interest of the Red Bull group. Despite the potential marketing boost for Red Bull itself, having two top teams could pose challenges, especially if Racing Bulls at some point in the near or far future outshine the main team. There's pressure for Racing Bulls to show growth, not only through a change of name and internal management, but also due to their proximity to Red Bull in car development. The change of brand, I think, will be weird because they could have gone back to Toro Rosso, especially because it does mean Red Bull in Italian. The move towards a newer, more generic name might result in a car with a somewhat soulless look, similar to AlphaTauri. It appears that the team can't really decide what it wants to be every year, constantly undergoing changes, and whether or not this rebrand will be successful, it's evident that Red Bull wants their sister team to succeed in their role, because why would you focus so much time on it? It will be interesting to see the team in 2024 with Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda, two talented drivers that are able to score points. This change goes beyond the surface level of a rebrand. It signifies a strategic move to reshape the team's image and potentially improve its performance on the track. As we await official confirmation, it's essential to consider how these alterations may impact AlphaTauri's trajectory in Formula One. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this will change AlphaTauri, or will they continue to be the same mediocre team?